Nearly 5 years ago, General Motors really shocked the industry when they introduced the first ever full production mid-engine Corvette known as the C8. This vehicle came out back in 2020, and since then the Corvette has been wildly successful, especially with attracting a younger audience to the Corvette brand. However, for 2024, General Motors is once again looking to shock the traditional purist again with the first ever E-Ray Corvette. And what the company has done here is they've shoehorned a powerful electric motor at the front axle, giving this vehicle for the first time all-wheel drive and introducing for the first time ever a hybrid electric Corvette. So as you can see this week, we're actually out here in Denver, Colorado to finally drive the all-new 2024 Corvette E-Ray. And the big question I want answered, has General Motors once again succeeded in creating a Vette for a new type of performance enthusiast buyer? Stay tuned to find out. All right, guys, so now that we finally have the brand new 2024 Corvette E-Ray in the sheet metal, I have to say this car has been long anticipated because, as you guys know, when General Motors first went, when Chevy first went mid-engine with this car, it angered a lot of purists, but also attracted a lot of new performance-minded buyers, younger buyers, because everybody knew essentially that if the Corvette was going to get more performance-oriented, even quicker, even faster, the company had to go mid-engine. And of course, the company also has been toying with the idea of going hybrid electric, and this is what the E-Ray is supposed to satisfy, of course. Now let's talk about the styling before we start talking about the powertrain. Now, first of all, the C8 Corvette has been out since 2020. Hard to believe that it's been almost 5 years since they first showed off this model. And you can see the styling of the E-Ray certainly looks like the other models. You have the same standard full LED headlights at the front. These are an LED low and high beam. You have an LED daytime running light, LED turn signals. One of the differences that I'm noticing with the E-Ray is actually a lot of the body colored cues. So you can see there's a lot of functional openings here that allow cooling. You can see actually behind this little area here, there's actually a heat extractor. That is for the front electric motor for this vehicle. You can also see there's a lot of body colored accents here. This particular color is called Cacti Green. It's a new color for 2024. It looks great on the E-Ray. You can see the body colored accents really kind of give it more of a premium GT car finish or GT car look to it. Chevrolet says that they really wanted this car to be more of a GT cruiser, but at the same time, it also can be a performance car because that's what the Corvettes are known for. Now, moving around the side profile or the rest of the front of this vehicle, you can see the Corvette has a low and wide stance, and it has a much smaller or shorter front overhang because of the fact that it's mid-engine. It also allowed Chevrolet to throw in a frunk on this vehicle. So if you touch this little area here, there's a little pressure button. You basically push that, it'll actually open up the front trunk. And even though this car does have a front electric motor, it still has a front trunk underneath here. And they don't have official specs. There's a total of 12.5 cubic feet. I'd probably say this is around 5 cubic feet. So it's nice to see, even with the packaging of a front motor, Chevrolet was able to keep the fact that this vehicle does have a frunk. And it also has an additional rear trunk in the back. So that's kind of great in terms of practicality. It also has a soft close feature, which is nice. And you can really see from this angle the wide body proportions. This car has the same kind of wide body that you get on the Z06, but again, it has the same engine from the Stingray Corvette. Now, moving around the side profile, you can see this cacti green. I love this color, and it kind of goes well with the fact that this is the hybrid electric Corvette, the E-Ray. This color is new for 2024. It looks fantastic with these wheels. Now, the interesting thing about the E-Ray is it comes standard with a 20-inch wheel at the front and a 21-inch wheel at the back. All E-Rays will also come standard with the carbon ceramic brakes. So these are nearly 16 inches in diameter. They're 400 millimeters. They have a 6-piston Brembo caliper. You can also get them painted if you guys want them in red or yellow or blue or orange, I believe. And then this car also comes standard, what's interesting, with Michelin Pilot Sport 4 all-season tires. So this is actually one of the largest, or these are actually the largest production all-season tires that you're gonna find. So you have a 275 width at the front, or 275 by 30 R20, and then the rears are a 345 width tire. I've never seen a 345 width all-season tire. Michelin had to develop a special tire for this car, and the fact that this car comes with all seasons from the factory is really kind of showing that Chevrolet is serious about this being an all-weather sports car or supercar. You can get a summer tire if you want a Pilot Sport 4S, which Chevrolet will happily sell you if you guys go for the performance upgrade package. Now, my tester is actually the convertible. The convertible adds another $7,000, but it is a power retractable hardtop, and Chevrolet says it accounts for about 50% of total C8 Corvette sales. You can really see the lines of this car just look so much better with the convertible. The downside is you can't actually see the engine. However, there is a new feature where they actually put a piece of glass over the engine when you lift this up. I'll show you guys that later on the walk around. Obviously, this is a mid-engine car, so you have functional cooling vents over here. Your door handles are a little pressure pad underneath here, which allows you to open up the doors. And then you can see you also have an E-Ray badge here to let everybody know you've got the hybrid electric Corvette. The rears, you can see this polished wheel is a $1,500 upcharge. I don't particularly love a polished finish, but it does look really good with this cacti green exterior color. Now, looking at the rear of the vehicle, you can see there's a pretty tasteful spoiler at the back. You can also add like carbon fiber if you want for the spoiler, for the front splitter, for the rear splitter. And then you'll also notice a couple things here. The rear has also been body colored back here in some of the vents. Again, that's kind of matching what you get in the front of the vehicle with the body color accents. You can see the exhaust system on this car. It has the same kind of active sport exhaust that you get in the standard Stingray Corvette, and it's the same 6.2 liter V8. So let's go ahead and fire it up. You can hear how it sounds. And while obviously it doesn't have that high RPM wail of the Z06, the Stingray's 6.2 liter V8 with the active exhaust already sounds pretty good, although it isn't quite as loud as I'd like it to be for a Corvette, but it's good that you have the active features of this vehicle. Now, looking at the cargo area, you can see the convertible gives you like a little bit of a trunk back here. Now, it's actually a pretty big size. Chevrolet says you can fit a pair of golf clubs in here, I believe. And this is, again, I would say around 7 cubic feet. There's a total of 12.5 cubic feet. But I also like how it's carpeted. It's also sealed off from the elements, obviously. And then it also comes with a soft close feature, so you just have to basically just click that. Now, I want to show you guys the engine real quick, which you actually can take a look at by simply just pushing on that button. Now, you can see here, the top is back here, so we're gonna go ahead and put the top up. But before the top is finished going all the way up, and before that cover closes, you can see, you can stop it right there, and you can actually show the engine of this vehicle. And you can see when I have it open there, the top mechanism here can actually continue to start closing on its own, but let me go ahead and lock it into place. There you go. And there you can see the engine. Now, they added a new kind of plexiglass cover here, so you can actually still show people who are curious to see the engine. And remember, it's a mid-mounted 6.2 liter naturally aspirated pushrod V8 with direct injection and variable cylinder management. The engine on its own delivers 495 horsepower and 470 pound-feet of torque. Now, it's augmented by an electric motor that delivers 160 horsepower in the front and 125 pound-feet of torque. Add them up, you get a total of 655 horsepower and 595 pound-feet of torque. That's not an official torque rating from Chevy, but that torque figure is when you add the torque of the gas engine with, of course, the electric motor. It has a 1.9 kilowatt-hour battery pack that basically lives between the two front seats. There's a little tunnel in the front drive shaft area, or in the center tunnel of the vehicle, that's part of the backbone of the vehicle. It's a lithium-ion battery pack that's manufactured by LG, 1.9 kilowatt-hours. So it's a full hybrid. However, there is no physical connection between the rear gas engine and the front electric motor. So it has electronic all-wheel drive. The gas engine only delivers power to the rear wheels through a limited slip diff, and then you have an electric motor delivering power to the front wheels up to about 45 miles an hour on electric-only assist. Chevy says that it can go up to 150 miles an hour before the front motor will disconnect and totally shut down, and where the gas engine will take over. It all goes out through an 8-speed dual-clutch transmission. Remember, this is the new transmission that comes with this powertrain. There's no manual available on the C8 Corvette. That was another big controversy. And fuel economy, Chevy says that this will get around 19 mpg combined, which is the same as the Stingray. The company says that the city mpg is going to be around 3 mpg better, which would put it close to 20 miles to the gallon. The highway mpg will go down a little bit because of the additional drag that you get from the electric motors and the additional weight. Now, Chevy says this model here will sprint to 60 in just 2.5 seconds. It'll do the quarter mile in 10.4 seconds. So this is the quickest accelerating Corvette ever. And in terms of the curb weight, this is also the heaviest Corvette ever. It weighs in at just over 3,800 pounds for this convertible version, around 100 pounds less for the coupe. This is about 200 pounds heavier versus a Stingray or I believe a Z06 Corvette. So let's go ahead and take a look at the interior of the 2024 Corvette E-Ray. Before we get inside, however, let me show you guys the key fob. You can see this is the current Chevy General Motors key fob. It does have, of course, the unique Corvette logo on it to remind yourself that you have a Corvette, a C8 Corvette. You can see it has a lot of buttons on it for lock, unlock, remote start. You can also pop open the trunk and the rear trunk, the front trunk and the rear trunk, and you can also open and close the convertible top, along with use the panic function. I believe you can also access the vehicle through the Chevrolet MyLink app if you have access through it as well. But as you can see here, there's a little pressure pad underneath this little area of the door. When you push that, that's what opens up the door for you. Now, my tester here with the cacti green exterior is complemented by this interior called Artemis. It's a really interesting, almost like army, navy, or army green color to it, which is funny because this is actually not on the build site, the consumer build site for Chevrolet, but I love the green on green along with the GT. This is actually known as a 3LZ trim, so this is the top of the line trim, so it's gonna have all the upgraded leather and stitching and real metal and real carbon fiber trim. These are the competition sport seats as well. They're heated and ventilated, and they adjust, I believe, in 14 different ways. They look fantastic, and they're also very comfortable and supportive. I love the fact that you have beautiful leather stitching everywhere throughout this interior. This car kind of reminds you that General Motors, when they really put their minds to it, they can do a world-class interior with some carpet underneath or in the actual door pocket here, real leather stitching down here, real metal trim, along with high-quality feeling switchgear. So all of this, of course, is very nice, along with the D-spoke flat bottom and flat top steering wheel. It all looks just very, very nice. Now, getting in this vehicle is a matter of falling into the car because it's very, very low. It only has 5.3 inches of ground clearance. So for those of you who live in snow belt states, yes, you can put winter tires on this car and drive in the snow, but if it's really deep snow, it's not going to get very far. Now, shutting the door, you can hear the door has a relatively high or solid sounding thunk. You can see the graphics of the instrument panel reminds you that you're in an E-Ray. It shows you the battery, it shows you the internals underneath the vehicle, along with the graphics that you see in the center display. Now, when you want to start the car up, it actually has a traditional starter sound. So when I push the start-stop button, it fires up like every other Corvette, which is important because some of you are probably worried, oh, does it sound like a Prius or an electric car when it starts up? No, it doesn't. However, there are two modes within this vehicle where you can make it sound like an electric car. To access the two modes, you actually have to shut the car off, which is strange to me. Now, before I start the car, I actually have to put my foot on the brake and then I have to rotate the drive mode selector to the right. Now, once I do that, it'll actually bring up two other modes. Now, first I have to dismiss this. There we go. It brings up the two other modes, normal, which is how the vehicle typically starts, and then there's a stealth mode, as you can see to the left. That mode basically allows you to drive the vehicle on electric power only at speeds up to 45 miles an hour. And then there's also a shuttle mode. The shuttle mode is only for basically low speed maneuvers. If you're trying to move the vehicle, it limits the speed to only 15 miles an hour. So it won't let me choose stealth mode for some reason right now. Perhaps the battery doesn't have enough charge, but it is allowing for a shuttle mode. So when I have it in shuttle, I rotate it to that. I push the start-stop button. This is where the vehicle starts up in shuttle mode. So as you can see, the vehicle is on, but there's no actual noise, which I'll actually, let me put the top down so you guys can see really quick that I'm not kidding. It's totally quiet in here, which, by the way, this power retractable top is wonderful. My recommendation, if you guys are looking at this vehicle, go for the convertible for the extra $7 grand. It's definitely worth the charge. Now, you can see here the top is down and the car is on. So if I start moving around here, we are essentially driving around a front wheel drive Corvette because it's only running on the front electric motor. And like I said earlier, it is front wheel drive. And it makes for a really cool, unique experience that the Corvette has never had before. So this is all new age stuff, and I'm really happy to see that Chevy is kind of, pushing the envelope and allowing you to do something like this. Again, this is only this mode is only available at speeds up to 15 miles an hour. Most of you are going to put it in stealth mode, which for some reason, again, this car is not allowing me to do that. Now, to get it out of stealth mode, you have to turn the car off and then put your foot on the brake, and that will turn it back on and allow the vehicle to start back up. And for quietness, I'm going to actually close the roof back up because we're actually here at an airport and there's a lot of planes that keep flying by. And this whole procedure takes literally, I want to say 15 seconds. It's pretty quick. And I love the fact that it's actually a hard top because it really makes the interior a lot quieter, and then you can see the windows will close up, and that's how you know it's completely done. Now, looking at the rest of this cabin, you can see it's pretty much the same stuff as the regular Stingray. You have full leather stitching along the dash here, along with the carbon fiber. It's very driver focused. So you have a full digital cluster here, and then you have an 8-inch touchscreen over here. There are a couple of new features, of course. Now, when you go to the home display here, you can see the software has been upgraded slightly. This car also has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. That's with my phone connected. The screen is definitely starting to look a little bit small, but remember, this is a really small interior, so it's not too much of a big deal. The new mode here is this E-Ray function, or it's kind of like an E-electric drive page here, where it shows you the electric motor output, it shows you the engine output, it shows you the power, it shows you the torque, it can show a dyno, you can show a data. So this is all really nice. You also have a new battery display over here where it shows you how much charge is in the battery. The vehicle is designed to quickly discharge and recharge the battery pack because it's very small. It literally lives right here. You can actually push this button here, and this will allow you to kind of turn the charge on or off to where it'll rapidly discharge or charge the battery if you'd like. Chevy says it only takes a few miles to actually charge the battery up when you have that mode engaged, in addition to using the regen braking to charge the battery up. There's the embedded GPS in this car, which the GPS is all Google based. This is their latest software, which it works pretty well. I like how the system here is pretty quick and snappy. You can see there's your backup camera. It offers several different views. No 360 top-down view, but you can do like a curb view, a front view, where you can keep yourself from damaging the front splitter. There's also a front axle lift system here. That's an extra charge. You can also access the front camera here. So that's all very nice. It's very important, of course, for a vehicle like this because you don't want to have to scratch up your hybrid electric supercar. You can see over here, carbon fiber covering the cup holder lid. You have a drive mode selector here where you're in this mode. You can see there are 4 different modes. There's a sport mode, there's a track mode, and then you kick it back over to a touring mode, which is like their normal, and then there's a my mode, and then there's a weather mode. So technically there are 5. The weather mode is for those of you who want to drive this vehicle in the snow. You can see this also shows you a cool little graphic there. When you're in that mode, you can see over here you have a padded center console area with 2 USB charging ports. You have a wireless phone charging pad there. The seats I mentioned earlier, these are the competition sports seats. They're heated and ventilated, and they're extremely comfortable. They hold you in place, yet they're not super constricting. Push that button here, you can see there's the glove compartment. It's a bin style, it's stamped, and it's lined with felt. And then all Corvette E-Rays will come standard with the heads-up display, which is important. And then you also can get the digital camera rearview mirror in addition to a traditional mirror. That's really handy, of course, with the way this car sits. It just viewing out of the rear is a little bit compromised, but that kind of takes away from that when you have it in this mode. The Bose stereo system has 14 speakers. It's standard on the 2LZ package and up. There's a 10-speaker bass system available on the base model, but overall you can see the interior still feels very driver focused. It still has some great tech. The screen is starting to look a little bit small, but I love the way the steering wheel looks. I love the materials, especially when you go for the upper trims. This car feels like it's worth the 6 figures, the 6-figure price tag that Chevrolet is asking for when you guys go for the E-Ray. All right, guys, so welcome to the inside of the 2024 Corvette E-Ray. And as you can see, I'm joined by Chris Amos from the Topher. If you guys haven't seen his channel, he does some pretty great POV stuff. So after you're done watching this video, be sure to also watch his review on the Corvette E-Ray. But we are finally in this car, and we actually switched over to a coupe in this kind of, what is this gray color called again? It's like a wolf, or it's a new color this year, but I can't remember the name off the top of my head.
Drawing a blank also.
But it's got the natural color interior, and the coupe is it's the lighter option, so it was good that we switched over to this. Now, I want to clarify something. When I was doing the interior scene earlier, I couldn't get it to go into stealth mode, and that's because my seatbelt wasn't buckled. So before you start the car up, you actually have to switch the drive mode here, or rotate it until it reveals the 2 extra drive modes, and now it'll let me go into stealth mode because I've got the seatbelt on. So once it does that, you can turn the car on, and this is where the E-Ray is a little bit different than a Toyota hybrid that you've been driving. Yes, you can start it up in EV-only mode. However, you can only do it at startup, at the initial startup. So once this car actually turns on and you wake up the gas engine, it won't divert back to stealth mode unless you shut the car off and you cycle it through that. And then the other thing about stealth mode is the air conditioning doesn't work, or if you try to turn on the AC, it'll turn the engine back on. At least that's what you told me. So that's something that you probably aren't going to want to do if it's really hot outside like it is now. So we're going to see how long I can get it to drive in the stealth mode, because what we're driving now is the first ever front wheel drive Corvette because it's in stealth mode. So remember, it only has a 1.9 kilowatt hour battery pack. So when you're in this mode, Chevy says you can only go up to 45 miles an hour in pure EV, and it probably will only last between 3 to 4 miles. So right now I'm going like 27 miles an hour. This is basically like if you're stuck in traffic, or you just want to get away from your neighborhood without making a lot of noise. This is where the engine won't come on, and it's essentially driving like a fully electric car. There's also some noises that it makes. It's a synthesized noise, but I actually kind of like it. And we'll talk about that more later on when we go into the driving scene, because it makes a really interesting noise. So I'm going to try to get it up to speed here. Chris tried to do this earlier, but the gas engine came on pretty early in his review.
I gave it too much of a bootful.
You did.
Yeah.
So like, I'm still being very gentle. It's at 42 miles an hour. Let's see if I can get it up to 45. There it goes. So right at 45 miles an hour, it actually takes a couple seconds for the engine to come on, but it's incredibly smooth, the transition from it to switch from fully electric to the hybrid mode, which technically, when it's in hybrid mode, it never will power the vehicle on pure EV alone ever again. What you'll feel is essentially just the electric motor from the front assisting the gas engine every time. And that electric motor has a ton of power, 160 horsepower from just the front electric motor, which is pretty significant. Now, the one thing I do want to test out when we find a good stretch of road is the 0 to 60 time. Chevrolet says it's 2.5 seconds. Now, you're going to get that by obviously being on a prep service. I also have an extra passenger with me, so I don't expect it to actually do that well. I think the quickest time I got was 2.8 seconds in the Z06 and 3.5 seconds in the Stingray, the regular Stingray. But with all-wheel drive, this thing should launch pretty well. So let's see if I can get it into its performance traction management here. There we go. So you actually can do that just by activating the Z mode, and then it goes into the PTM automatically, unless you have it set to not do that. But when you're in this mode, this is where you're gonna get maximum performance. And I'm trying to see if I can try to find like a straight road here. But before we get into that, the one thing, if you guys have driven the regular Stingray, the sound is gonna be familiar because you have the same 6.2 liter V8 from the back with direct injection. It has the same sounds. The exhaust is pretty much the same. What is different is the electric motor part, because you're gonna feel it adding that power constantly. But let's go ahead and see what we can get here. There's nobody behind us. This is sort of straight. What do you think it's gonna do, Chris?
2.7.
Let's see here. Okay, that's not really it, but. Well, right, that's 3.7, but I didn't really get the launch control to engage there. But I don't know if you guys could hear the electric motor sound almost kind of sounds like a supercharger. Those are your words.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting sound, and Chevy did tell us that it's fake, it's synthesized, but I'm okay with that, because if you're gonna do a synthesized sound, it needs to sound good, and it's adding to that drama. It adds something to the V8, and that's what's really unique about this car is, like, yes, the Corvette Z06 probably sounds better. I mean, that flat plane crank, when I first drove it last year, I was super impressed. You just drove the car like a week ago or something like that. Yeah, the exhaust is amazing on that car. It has very much, it feels like a race car. This has a completely different feel to it. And remember, it's the first ever all-wheel drive Corvette. So there's something unique about this car. And Chevy says that when they were planning the mid-engine Corvette, they already had a hybrid in mind. And that's the thing about this electric motor is it adds 160 horsepower and 125 foot-pounds of torque basically instantly. So you don't really have to worry about waiting for an engine to rev up or gears to change, and it just adds the power. As soon as my foot goes down, you can feel the power being added instantly, and it just pushes you back in the seat. In fact, we were on the highway earlier where Chris was driving, and I was sitting shotgun. I remember, like, you would just slam the accelerator in 8th gear, and I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked at how quick this thing just picks up speed.
Yeah, 1,500 RPM, it just took off. Didn't care.
All right, I finally got it to go into the PTM mode where the ESC is in the is in its sport setting. Unfortunately, we are going uphill here, so we're gonna try to find a. God. You know what? It's like, let's just try it here real quick while we're going uphill and see what we can get. Because 3.7 earlier wasn't great, but now it should let me do launch control. So. Oh God.
Pretty good.
That's 3.7, and we're going on an 8% uphill climb. So, and remember, we're also here in Denver. The elevation is at almost 7,000 feet right now. That's my watch is telling me. And the fact that this is it's a naturally aspirated V8, which is at a disadvantage when you're at this kind of elevation. But remember, we've got that 160 horsepower electric motor adding to that torque. And this thing, it feels fast. It feels quicker, obviously, than the Stingray, but it feels faster than the Z06 at times because of that extra torque. And that's where I think some of you may be sold on the E-Ray. Like if you're trying to decide between the E-Ray and the Z06, one drive in this car may tempt you because of just how unique this car feels, the unique sounds, the all-wheel drive grip, especially for those of you who live in colder climates. This is the first ever all-wheel drive Corvette, and it comes standard with all-season tires on it, the fattest all-season tires that you can get in the business. And it really is going to be great for those of you who, again, want to use this as your daily driver. It has an amazing ride quality. The magnetic rheological dampers come standard. And it has amazing grip as well. Even though this car is, again, on all seasons, I actually forgot that it was on all seasons at times just because it just has so much grip. And listen to that. As soon as you go heavier on the throttle, it's kind of creating that synthesized noise, and it's just adding to the drama. I'm really impressed, actually. If you're going to do a hybrid performance vehicle, Chevy kind of got it right. Remember, there's not really much in terms of competition for this car. Sure, there's like vehicles like the Acura NSX, which is in its last model year. 2022 was the last year of the Type S, and this car has more power than the NSX. So it kind of shows you that, you know, Chevy studied that car and they were like, how can we do this better? And this is kind of the complaints that I had about the Acura, is it didn't have enough electric-only assist, but you kind of have that here with the E-Ray, and it's what makes it super cool and super unique. Now, obviously, right now, this is the quickest accelerating Corvette you can buy, but we're expecting a ZR1, we're expecting like a Zora with the twin-turbo V8 version of the Z06. But let's go ahead and see here. Oh, man, there's a car coming. Oh, okay, good. They're not going anywhere. Let's try it again here and see if we can get something better. It's more level. God. All right, 3.5 there, and this is with it more on a level surface. So I imagine we could do better than that at some point when we're on a prep surface and when it's just one person in the car. But that time essentially matches the last time I had in a Stinger. Remember, this car is about 200 pounds heavier, but at some point I'll see if I can try to get a faster time. But overall, from a dynamic, from a straight line acceleration portion, obviously the E-Ray offers something unique. It is bloody fast, and dynamically it feels every bit as good as you expect a performance Corvette to drive, just because of the wider body, the sticky tires, just how fat the tires are. And the other interesting thing I want to talk about is there is a unique mode here where you can put into this charge mode here, where when you put into this charge mode, I have 75% left on the battery right now. Literally, all you have to do is drive the car for a few miles, and it puts some drag on the front electric motors and it starts recharging the battery. Literally, in the time that I've been talking, it gained 5% of range. More than that, actually, it's like 10% of range. So this will quickly recharge the battery, and that's really good for if you guys are on a track, you're going to want to get more battery performance. You're going to want that additional boost from the front motor, so you're going to want to charge the battery up really fast. Or, for example, if you're just coming home and you want to fully charge the battery before you shut the car off, you can also do that really quickly in your last couple miles before you get home. The brakes on this car I do want to talk about, because these are carbon ceramics and they're standard. Chris actually mentioned it in his review as well, but they don't have a lot of bite at initial tip in, and I actually do feel that myself, because like when you first put down the brake pedal, you kind of notice this car primarily uses the regen braking to slow the car down, which I understand, it's a hybrid, but if you really want to slow it down, you have to be hard on the brake, and it kind of makes you feel like it's not quite enough braking performance. But once you kind of get used to that, it should obviously correct or show that it can stop the vehicle. Chevy did also tell us that these brakes aren't quite fully broken in. The car has just over 1,000 miles on it, so if you guys are going to drive this car a lot more on track situations, you're going to probably want to properly seat those brakes in it as well. But overall, I'm just super impressed. This car doesn't feel that much heavier than the last Stingray that I drove, but obviously it feels a lot wider. I actually haven't had a chance to drive the Z06 in almost a year because it hasn't been in the press fleet. So I'm hoping that the E-Ray will be a little bit more readily available. In terms of fuel economy, Chevy basically said this will get the same gas mileage as the Stingray, which is around 19 mpg combined. They did say that this would get a little bit better in the city because of the ability to run at least on electric alone if you guys put it in stealth mode. In the last few miles that we've been driving this car, the trip computer says the average is around 14.6, but somebody did manage to do a little over 30 miles to the gallon, so that is pretty impressive. But I'll have to wait until I get one back home to retest to see what the fuel economy is actually like. This car, when we first got in, was showing a range of just under 200 miles. Remember, it has an 18-gallon gas tank, and somebody was flogging this. I mean, we're going to be taking it to the track tomorrow. Unfortunately, I won't be able to because I'm actually leaving very early to go back to Detroit for the auto show this week, so stay tuned for all my coverage on that. But overall, dynamically, viscerally, mechanically, the E-Ray definitely is something new, and I think it's exactly what Chevy was going for, and it's going to really attract that new, younger buyer to the Corvette family even more. I mean, the regular C8 has been attracting a younger clientele, but for those of you who are considering, again, like a Porsche 911, because technically Porsche doesn't have a 911 that compares with this just yet, or if you guys have had your eye on something like an NSX or the hybrid McLaren, for example, this is going to be offering similar performance, but at a fraction of the price. So a couple years ago, when I first had the opportunity to drive and spend some time with the all-new C8 Corvette, I was simply blown away because what Chevrolet has done here is designed a Corvette for a new generation of buyer, a younger buyer. Because as you guys know, the butt of all Corvette jokes is they tend to be driven by a lot of retired folks who are having a midlife crisis. However, with this all-new generation Vette, Chevrolet has definitely succeeded in attracting a lot of younger buyers and conquesting buyers from other exotic brands like, of course, Audi, Lamborghini, Ferrari, even perhaps, because there's a lot to like here about the C8 family. And after spending some time driving the E-Ray Corvette, this essentially just takes the Corvette to another level. As you guys saw, this is the quickest accelerating Corvette currently. Of course, there are probably going to be faster versions coming out eventually. The Zora and the ZR1, I believe, should be coming out at some point as well. And the fact that this car now offers all-wheel drive, the fact that you can get it with all-wheel drive, with all-season tires, makes this, again, an all-weather sports car. That's important for those of you who really hate the fact that you have to put one of these in the garage and put a cover over it and you have to store it in the wintertime, because this finally gives you the all-weather capability. Now, I wouldn't suggest going into some deep snow with this thing because it only has 5.3 inches of ground clearance, but between the coupe and the convertible, the E-Ray model is certainly going to be the most interesting Corvette, and I wouldn't be surprised to see more people choose this over the Stingray. Now, of course, if you guys are on a budget, this is going to be costing considerably more. But if you're also considering a Z06, the Z06, I proclaimed it to be the best driving car that I drove last year when I first had a chance to drive it out in Pittsburgh. I have to admit, this car here has me thinking, because for around the same money, if you guys are looking to get your hands on this vehicle, they are trickling into Chevrolet dealerships by fall or toward the end of this year. This is going to start at just over $104,000 for the base coupe and the 1LZ trim. Now, if you guys want the convertible is an extra $7,000. I personally would go for the convertible myself, just because it gives you a lot of extra touches on there. And it also gives you the fact that you can put the top down and you can hear and feel the wind in your face and in your hair. That's always a plus. This model here is the 3LZ convertible, so it's the most complex and the most expensive car. So this one here, I don't have the Monroney on me, but I would estimate the sticker of this one's around $130,000. So compared to a Stingray Corvette, this is a whopping around $40,000, just under 40 grand more expensive. However, the Corvette E-Ray does come standard with carbon ceramic brakes, which are like a $10,000 upcharge. So there are a lot of features here in addition to the additional power that you get, like an extra 160 horsepower, that make this car worth it. And this version here is actually less expensive versus the Z06 by about $4,000 less expensive. Now, for those of you who have 6 figures to spend on your new supercar, obviously, be trying to choose between the Z06 and the E-Ray is going to come down to your personal preference. If you guys plan to do track stuff more often, you're going to want the Z06. But if you want an everyday supercar that you could also drive out on the track, this model here is a very tempting proposition, so I highly recommend putting this one here at the very top of your list. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2024 Chevrolet Corvette E-Ray. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.